Are you a sex worker seeking community with other sex workers? A space where we can just be our true selves? Join our free Authentic Relating sessions, created by and for sex workers across the industry. Whether you're a dancer, performer, creator, or any of the fancy naked people in our community, online or in person, this space is for us. We explore honest, present moment conversations that help us feel seen, heard, and understood. Building genuine connections that prioritize communication, community, and authenticity. Our weekly sessions include a public audio-only space for sex workers and allies to connect and grow, and a private video-enabled space for a deeper connection and support among sex workers only. This is our space to thrive in community and connection. Learn more at bit.ly/SW Authentic Relating. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Stripped by Sia, your podcast for strippers, sex workers, and all the fancy naked people in between. I am your host, aka Sia on camera. That's what I'm going to be naming myself all for the rest of the year. I know I usually use my stage name Kimchi, like on an actual stripping stage, but I will officially say I'm not doing that anymore. I have sunsetted my stripping career, so you'll no longer find Kimchi on stage anymore. You can find me online at Sia on camera on various platforms. I've been a sex worker for over a decade, starting off in in-person work as a stripper baby, and then moving on to stripping, online work as a cam model, fetish model, and all the various platforms that are available online right now. And if you're new here, this show is all about destigmatizing sex work, and I do that by bringing different guests onto the show every single week to share their corner of the industry, to talk about, what it really is like, and not just the frou-frou fluffy stuff that you might hear on TV or TikTok or anything like that. So my guests kind of range from models, on-screen talent. We can talk to producers. We can talk to organizations that really fight for sex work advocacy. So pretty much everything under the sun. And that's just to really give a transparent and a really just authentic point of view in terms of the challenges that we go through, the very unique challenges that sex workers go through, and, how we kind of navigate basically the shitstorm that's happening in our corners. So this week is no different. I'm really excited to bring on today's guest. You may or may not know her because she's kind of a big deal. She goes by the name Jacq Frances, but you might know her as Jacq the Stripper. At least I know in my stripping days, I knew her as Jacq the Stripper. And we'll be talking over the next hour just about her career, her life, obviously what's going on with sex work in general right now. But there's a lot of things that I want to chat with her about, and I'm sure that you guys also want to intimately know about her. But before we get into that fun interview, I'm going to just say a quick hello to our lovely Patreon subscribers. Hello, thank you so much for subscribing and just being with me over the past, I don't know, now I want to say several years now, because we're going to year 6 of doing the podcast. So thank you so much for your financial support. This is incredible. If you are curious about what Patreon is, it's my lovely community up on there where I share all of the the full video exclusive access to all of the episodes from season 4 onwards, because I wasn't doing that before. But anyways, we have lots of bonus episodes and content, my guest lectures at various universities, speeches at galas and stuff like that, and just a big sneak peek on who I'm bringing onto the show, what kind of topics I'm wanting to tackle, and also just to answer your burning questions. So if you're curious, it is patreon.com/strippedbysia, and we have tiers starting for as low as $4 a month. And if you're curious where that money goes to, it goes towards hosting my website strippedbysia.com, but also enables me to go to industry events like XBiz and what else is there? AVNs, both of which have not gone to last month because financials and things like that. But this really helps a lot with that. And also, I just want to get in touch with you listeners as well. So again, if you're interested in financially supporting the show, it is patreon.com/stripped by Sia. I'm so glad that I'm getting that under 4 minutes now, because I'm really excited to talk with Jacq, obviously. And I know you guys are like, just like hurry up and fast forward. You want to learn more about Jacq Frances. So as I mentioned, Jacq Frances, aka or formerly known as Jacq the Stripper, is a former stripper, artist, comedian, author, consultant, filmmaker, all the things. Canadian. I didn't know that
Yeah.
until now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Yeah.
so excited. Yeah. So, I mean, this lady needs no introduction, but that is what I know of you. But I would love to throw it back to you, Jacq. Thank you so much for coming onto the show, and I'm so excited for this connection.
Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here. Yeah, that's a pretty apt introduction. I wear a lot of hats. I wear a lot of hats. I guess what I would add to all of my descriptors now is that I'm an educator
Ooh,
and
yes.
an avid skier.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, it's sort of like the mountain is now my strip club. I'm just dancing down the mountain. Yeah.
I love that. And you know what? I
Yeah.
mean, I'm in Vancouver, so like we've got hella great mountains over here. I mean,
Yeah, you
although I'm a
do.
snowboarder, but it's
That's okay, me too.
fun.
I mean, I'm skiing now, but I go both ways.
There you go.
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
talented.
I
Can
try
I
it all. Yeah.
quickly can I quickly share a story
Yes,
about
please.
like your popularity and also just like your, I don't know, yeah, your reign. I don't know. When I first started stripping officially back in 2018, I was actually really shy and very much into like I'm scared, not scared, but like shy, especially in all female environments. And breaking out into the industry during that time, like didn't really have many friends in the industry, and there were a couple of people that I was working with. I got to work with more, and I remember there was one girl that had one of your books, and she would get everyone to sign their stripper name and like a little message and stuff as like her own keepsake when she retires, and she's now retired. But I just remember that, and then I was like, oh my gosh, now I feel like everything's coming full circle because I finally get to share that with you like in person. And that was, I think, really cool, because then that was the beginning of some friendships that I made with that girl, and also people that I was working with that week and stuff that turned out to be like long-term friends. So thank
Mm-hmm.
you, by the way. It was just really
Yeah,
cool.
you're welcome. Was it Striptastic?
It was
Do you remember?
Striptastic.
Yeah, it's a great book. It's a great book.
It is
Yeah,
really great, and just
yeah.
fun. And I think that was like a cool kind of memo and keepsake for that fellow dancer friend of mine. And I was like, what the hell is this? This is hilarious. And I was just like scrolling through. I'm like, what page do I want to take? But yeah, I just wanted
Yeah.
to kind of share that with you.
Thank you. Thank you. I as my first book, I've been reflecting on like my publishing work and everything that I've done, and like while I am formerly known as Jacq the Stripper, I will always be Jacq the Stripper. I'm just not stripping anymore, and I there's more that I do beyond that. And also, I just want to go. I The stigma of stripping, of sex work, follows you everywhere, and it's been interesting moving to a small conservative town in South Central Idaho and like conducting the experiment of what it's like to be received as a hoe, you know? Like what is that like? Because while I'm no longer practicing, right? I'm
Mhm.
100% out of the game as an experiment. I'm having a social experiment of what is it like to live a completely civvy vanilla lifestyle.
Yeah.
I cut off all of my ties with sex work, not like spiritual ties, you know what I mean? But
Mhm.
like in application, like I am not currently doing any kind of sex work. Just to see what it's like. And like even
Yeah.
recently I was like, why am I doing this for free? Like this has been the question because I'm trying to date, I'm trying to date and
Yeah.
I'm like, why am I doing this for free? Why? Like,
Yeah.
but just to find out, because the flip side of that is like something that I want to explore. Because you gave me a really like beautiful, illustrious introduction, because I have achieved so much
Yes, you
in my
have.
37 years. I have achieved so much. I've created so much incredible art, and I'm really proud of all of my achievements.
Mhm.
Um, However, one thing I haven't tried, because I was thinking, I was like, well, what haven't I tried? And I was like, I haven't tried a healthy adult relationship, and I want to know what that's like.
Mm-hmm.
I want to try it. I want to try it, and I want to see if I like it. And if I don't like it, I can always go back. But
Yes.
right now, that's where I'm at. So,
Wow. How long is that
yeah.
experiment going on for, Jacq?
Well, you know what? The last tie I cut off from my career in the adult business was like 2 weeks ago.
So we're fresh.
So we're fresh, and
We're
it was like
fresh.
it was just like it was the last thread, you know,
Mm-hmm.
the last thread of I'm going to be 38 this month, and I pretty much started doing like some version of sex work at 18, you know, like as soon as I knew I could profit off of it, I started to. Well, even if it was just like I was just kind of competitive about going to the bars and seeing how many drinks I could get men to buy me. Like that's how it started when I was 18, because in Montreal, where I went to school,
Mm-hmm.
you're 18 at the bars. So as
Right.
soon as I could go to bars and hustle, I did. And so that's 20 years, and that's my entire adult life. And
Wow.
I have zero regrets. I don't have any regrets, but I'm just conducting like I see my art and my process and this beautiful lived experience as an experiment, you know? So the
Yeah.
experiment is now like, what is it like to not um what is it like to like decondition from that conditioning? And like it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
really like, and sometimes it's fun, but it's like what is it like to take the commerce out of my personal life,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and my sexuality and my like my heart. Like who do I really want to hang out with, and like what does that look like? And it's been kind of like and I live in a small town and I don't date online. Like there's not like a lot going on. It's very kind of quiet. And I actually have been building tremendous community. I have a more strong community than I've ever had in my life of elders, younger people, friends. Like I have male friends for the first time in my life.
Wow.
You know, like I didn't have any
Wow.
men in my life except for the men at the club. I just didn't have any
Right.
men in my life. So I'm just sort of like, okay, what's happening? And like, you know, and then like attempting to like date romantically is hysterical. The stories are funny. No one's getting hurt, you know, no one's getting hurt, but it's like I'm just like experimenting with what is it like, because I found so much purpose and ambition and fun and play. Like I love monetizing my sexuality.
Mm-hmm.
You
Who
know,
doesn't?
I just well, no, it's not who doesn't. A lot of people are not like us,
This is
but
true. This is
we
true.
have a special, and I think it's learning what the sparkle that sex workers have, and like how that translates in other fields, and that's sort of what I'm learning by really taking myself out of sex work. I'm like, okay, that bridge, and not burn the bridge, just like close the door, you know, and be like,
Yeah.
okay, that I can do that. So now the way it's been manifesting in my community here is I'm a dance teacher, and I produce a lot of
Mm.
events. I produce a lot of live entertainment, and I'm helping instill confidence in people. That's what a dance
Mm.
class is. Like, you know, I'm
Yes.
teaching people how to stand in front of the mirror and love it,
Right.
which is
Wow.
so important. And I'm doing community theater because I love being on stage wearing a ridiculous outfit, making people feel something. That's always
Yeah.
been part of me before I became a stripper. Like I've been a performer my whole life since I was 4 years old. And I'm
Mm.
sharing that with others, because what stripping taught me was that you don't have to be trained and talented to do it. You just have to literally get up there and figure it out. So
Yes.
you don't have to have any stage experience. You don't need any dance experience. Just come and show up. And if you want to do something fun on stage, like I will facilitate that. And I've got a big show coming up on Valentine's Day, for example, and it's
Yay.
entirely community theater. Like it's the community. There's like some pros are in it, but I teach a dance class for 6 weeks and we present it at the end. So I'm and like it's sharing the sparkle, it's sharing the self-confidence, it's sharing like how to relate to people. So there's like endless transferable skills.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Sex work, I feel like, really showed that to me, really enabled that in me, and really actually helped me build a lot of confidence that I didn't know I had. As I mentioned, I'm kind of actually a shy person. When I am in an environment where I don't know many people, I'm not familiar with that. But especially with stripping, really, stripping really like caused me, or like not caused, but like enabled me to put myself in an uncomfortable position in terms of like going out and talking to people, trying to sell my personality to them. What was my personality? What is that? What is sellable? And what's persuasive, and like that's kind of salesy tactics and stuff like. And I feel like a lot of people discover that when they enter this work, not just talking about stripping, but also like we can be talking about your experience in porn or your experience as a model and stuff, that I feel is buried or has to be like opened. I don't know if that's making any sense, but it needs to be tapped in,
Well,
is what I'm trying to say.
you have to discover what it is that you believe in, because it's a sales job, so you have to know what the product that you're selling, and the product is time.
Yeah,
and who do you want to spend your time with?
Absolutely.
That's how I did it.
It's a journey. But I mean, let's go back to you, because like maybe let's start at the very beginning, because I know you've kind of touched a little bit here, touched a little bit there, but maybe talking about starting off at 4 years old as a performer. Maybe we can start there, and then how that channeled in. I think that's a good place to start.
Yeah. So when my very first dance class, I was 4, and well, going back even further, when I was 3, my mom took my dad, my sister, myself, and we lived in Bali for a year.
Oh, wow.
My mom and dad took like a sabbatical, and we lived in Bali. And I grew up, because I'm Canadian, I'm from Ontario, Canada. Small, at the time, it was a farm town. And they took us to like the jungle and the beach, where I spent my pretty much the entire time in a pair of underwear. That was it.
Wow.
That was it. I was naked running through rice fields. I just grew up in a kind of a naked environment, a naked, and so my favorite feeling is like warm air on my skin. I love my birthday's in January, but my favorite present has always been a bikini. Like, I've always loved being free with my skin and my body naked out, right? So that's just always who I've been. And then when I was 4 years old, I had my first dance recital, and we danced to Twist and Shout, that was covered by the Alvin and the Chipmunks. So it was like sped up and really high. And I had a sunset colored outfit. It was orange, pink, and purple with sequins. And I did my dance, and I just remember being on stage and like feeling the lights. I saw my best friend Taylor in the front row. And I waved at her, like just a tiny wave, when I was dancing. And I loved it. I was just like, this is what I want to do. I love the outfit. I love dance class. I love the costumes. I love being on stage. I just knew. And then, so I pursued like dance education as much as I could growing up. And then I was a competitive dancer until I was 15. And then I stopped dancing. And the truth about my dance career too is like, and this is what I tell everybody, is that I was not the best dancer in my group. I was always in the back. I always struggled to pick up choreography. I was never technically, like, I really wasn't, I was average, in technique, but I loved it. 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 And I had no idea how I was going to ever have a career as an entertainer. I always knew I wanted to be like, I wrote in this thing, like, I'm going to be an actress and model when I'm like older. This is what I wanted to be when I was like 5. I knew that's what I wanted. But as I got older, like 15, 16, I was like, I knew, I was like, I'm never going to be good enough to be a professional dancer. Like, I just knew. I was like, I'm not going to be a ballerina. I thought the 2 options for professional dancer was professional ballerina or dancer on a cruise ship. That's what I thought my options were, because in my small town, I danced in Brampton. Brampton is where I like learned how to dance. And I had a great teacher, Deborah Thompson, great dance teacher, hard, strong, technical, confident, assertive woman, and you never forget your teachers, right?
Of
And that's
course.
why I'm actually really honored to be a teacher, because I'm remembering how impactful my teachers were. And I'm stoked actually to do that, to pay that forward. Um, but where was I going with this? I was never that good. And the cruise ship, right? Cruise ship or ballerina. I didn't see it was possible. So I pursued visual arts in high school instead of dance, because I went to an arts high school, but I dropped out like immediately of that. I was into academia, and then but I loved to dance. So when I went to school in Montreal, I joined a burlesque troupe. And then when I moved to Thailand, I was a go-go dancer at a nightclub. And then I moved to Australia, and in Thailand, that's where I realized I was working at this nightclub 4 nights a week, and they were paying me very well. Well, Thailand, you don't need a ton of money to
Yeah.
to survive. And
Yes.
having white privilege, they just paid the white girls well. Like,
More.
and like, I made
Yeah.
$60 US a day
Mm-hmm.
to
And
show
that could
up
go
and be a
far
go-go
with your
dancer.
money.
It went so far. It went so far. It was like it was fun too. And that's where I realized, because I had graduated from university, I had a regular job for 2 months, and I was like, I don't like this. This is not for me. And that's when I realized, though, in Thailand, I was like, wow, I am making a living as an entertainer.
Mm-hmm.
And I just never thought that was possible. And then in Australia, that's where I started stripping. I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna be a stripper. And then everything, and then it just, and so ever since, I've always been an entertainer, I've always been, and I got into comedy because I met a comedian. I met a successful comedian at the strip club. As you
Oh,
do.
of
As you do.
course.
Yes. I was working the day shift at Flash Dancers in Times Square, which like sucked. Like, nobody wants to work the day shift. Well, not nobody. Some girls want to work. Let me rephrase. I did not want to work the day shift, but
There we
I
go.
was undocumented at the time. Didn't
Mm.
have the right paperwork. So there was a limit of what clubs I could work at. And I had
Oh.
just I had like my amazing lesbian haircut, and like they didn't want anything to do with me. Like in
Of
New York
course.
City, like they don't like they don't like any kind of diversity in strip clubs, right? I know like a skinny white woman, but I had a lesbian haircut, which was such a hit against me. So I had to but so the one place that did take me, they were like, yeah, you can work the day shift. And it was kind of miserable, but I was dancing behind the bar. Like, you have to dance in front of the refrigerator
Oh
for
my
this club.
gosh.
You're dancing in front of the
That's horrible.
refrigerator behind the bar. Yeah, it's horrible, but like it's a job, right? And this guy like takes a liking to me. It turns out he's a very successful comedian, and he was funny, and he asked great questions, and he was lonely, as many comedians are, and
Yes.
he struggled with a lot of addiction, as many comedians do.
Yes.
And we became friends. And at the time, I identified as very gay, and I don't usually I don't and I never really went out at the club with people. I was married at the time for
Mm.
almost my entire stripping career, and I would never do outside work. That was my boundary, and I think that's why I had really firm boundaries with stripping, so I wouldn't go out with people.
Mm-hmm.
But with this guy, I told him, and I never would tell anyone I was gay. I would always tell them I was bisexual, but at the time I identified as gay. Now I identify as horny for everything. Um, but but I told him, because I wanted to hang out with him. I was like, "You're interesting." So I was like, "I'm gay. It's not gonna be like that." And he was like, "That's fine." He was just on so many drugs he couldn't have done anything anyway. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But he showed me around, like, to all the clubs, all the comedy clubs, and he worked on his set, and I watched him refine his set. And like, I sat at the comedy table at the cellar with all these dudes, all the guys doing comedy, right?
Yeah.
And they were all just wearing like dirty black t-shirts, and just like, but they had great conversations, and I was like, you guys are fucked up. Like, I want in. And that's
Like,
how
let
I
me
got
do
into
this.
comedy. Yeah, well, I
What?
asked, I was like, any advice? And he
Hmm.
was like, yeah, take a class. So I took a class. I took an
Yes.
8-week comedy class at Caroline's, and like my teacher like was, kind of horrorphobic, and it's
Oh
okay. I
man.
still it like it, there it's okay. Like, that's like, not everyone's going to accept you fully anywhere.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean
Yes.
you're not going to learn something, right? So I took the class, and I met my former comedy partner in that class, because she was a slut too. And we started a slutty comedy show called Venus Flytrap. Rachel Green was my
Mm.
former comedy partner, and like, she's still in New York, and she's amazing. And she just did her one woman show. But like we came up together and we had like a sold out 6-year run of Venus
That's
Flytrap.
amazing.
And now
Incredible.
I'm like, and now I'm not so much, well, I'm still a comedian, but I'm like, I'm more like a mistress of ceremonies is what I call it now. I don't do like
Mistress of
5 to 7
ceremonies.
minutes. Yeah, I host shows. I
Okay,
host shows
gotcha.
with, or I'll do a long form story. I'm a storyteller. I don't really
Yeah,
have 5 to 7 minutes of like yucks to like do. It's not really my style,
right.
um, but I tell a great story. So
Mm.
that's sort of what I do now. But yeah, that's how I got
Damn.
into comedy.
You've done so much,
I've lived,
Jacq.
yeah, many
Like,
lives, many
you've worn
lives.
so many different hats here. I mean, I'd
Yeah,
love to go back to like your stripping career and then also go back
yeah,
into comedy as well. I just have some questions
yeah,
here.
yeah,
Like so you started off your stripping career in Australia.
yes.
How did you get started with that? And how was your experience down under over there? It's a little bit different
It was
than
amazing.
Canada.
I'm so grateful I started in Australia because Australians are so laid back. Because I'm
Hmm.
similar to Canadians,
Yes.
um, Australia, but like Australians are sexier,
Yeah.
right?
Well, the
Because
accent.
well, you think the accent's sexy, yeah. Well, they're just like the beach culture, right? They're all kind of
Yes.
so, and they're really sporty, right? So
Yes.
they're just like footies and titties, football titties. It wasn't so stigmatized. It was more,
Mm.
and I think like, and there was a, like the club I started working at, there was a brothel downstairs. So you could get what you wanted at different places. America is
Hmm.
so, everything is so heavily stigmatized. So you make more money because the more taboo it is, the more you can charge.
This is so true.
Yeah.
lesson.
So
Lesson for
America
those who
is,
are listening.
yeah. So if it's more taboo, you can charge more. So I made a lot more money. Well, no, I made a lot of money in Australia too. It was my first year and I just went gangbusters. I was obsessed, but I loved it. It was full nude, no contact where I very first started my first club. And I'm really grateful for that too, because I learned, I learned that, everyone just wants to look.
Mm.
They just want to look, and
Wow.
how generous to let them look at you.
Yeah. That's
So
nice.
generous. Yeah. And then when I moved to America, the first place I started stripping was New York City, which is like
It's so
so
different.
brutal. And
Isn't it just
I dance.
topless over there?
It's topless, but they can touch you. There's more contact.
Mm.
And
Okay.
I don't love that. You know what I mean? Lap
Hmm.
dances. Like I didn't even start doing lap dances for like a year. Like it was dancing on a podium. It was so
Yeah.
different. Like you're literally in Australia, you're dancing on a pedestal. And every state has different laws. So it
Yes, they
changed.
do.
I danced all over Australia. So it changed everywhere. But I really had a really pleasant introduction to it because I was 23, which like I thought I was so grown up at 23.
Didn't we
You
all
know,
think we were
I
super
thought,
grown up at like mid 20s?
well, because it's like I had been like I had 5 years. I had like been kind of like, out and about, like being an independent woman, going out and flirting and doing all that stuff. But 23 is pretty young. But but yeah, I don't know. It was really fun. Like I remember the first time how I did a Google search for gentlemen's clubs because I was like, I'm gonna be a stripper. I was
Mm.
poor. I was out of money. I was like,
Yeah.
I'm tired. I was eating oatmeal like every day
Mm.
because that's all I could afford. And I was like,
Yeah.
this sucks. And I started dating a girl and like I couldn't buy us pizza. And I was like, and neither could she. And like I was like, this isn't hot. Like I was like, I'm gonna be a stripper, and that's what I decided. I was like on a date with her. It was like one of our first dates. I didn't have any money, and I was like, fuck this. Like I'm gonna be a stripper. I'm done not having any
Yeah.
money. So I googled gentlemen's clubs, and I like put on. I'm pretty sure I put on like a black dress and black tights. And
Hmm.
I went the first one I went to. I was like, are you hiring? And she was like, waitress or dancer? And I was like, either one. She's like, well, we're not hiring waitresses, but we're hiring dancers. And I was like, okay, cool. And she just gave me a card. She's like, you're going to audition at this place tomorrow. Go
Right.
show up at noon and have your orientation. So we had an audition, and a woman, a former dancer, was running it all.
Wow.
Susie Q. Her name was Susie Q. This fiery redhead, and she gave us a 3-hour orientation about what this job is, how to say no, how to do your taxes, how to just a couple of simple dance moves. They gave us a coupon for the local stripper store where we could get a stripper starter kit for $199. And
Amazing.
she explained this incredible orientation that was 3 hours long that I don't know how I would have done that job without that 3-hour orientation. And that, because I'm like,
Wow.
every club should do that. They
100%.
explained, like, she was like, just, and she was like, explained boundaries. She explained boundaries. She explained why you can't use your real name. You know, she
Mhm.
never, I don't remember hearing the word boundaries because this was 15 years ago, right? But like, it was so helpful. Thank you, Susie Q. I hope you're doing great. I think she became like a pole star, you know, like she's a great pole
That's
dancer.
amazing.
Um, and you know what? I always thought strippers were like really, before I got in the game, I thought they were all going to be very enhanced and like,
Mm.
and then no shade to that, right? That's totally,
Yeah,
that's part of it. That's part of it. But
totally.
that wasn't me. Um, and this Susie Q was just kind of looked like me. She was kind of like adorable, natural, and like, just like, okay, this is how it's going to go. And it was like, oh, interesting. Cause I thought I had to like become like a sci-fi character in order to
Right.
like do the job. And that's
Mhm.
never been my style, you know?
Mhm.
So it was cool to just have a great introduction. And I'm always grateful for that because like you, like having a mentor, there's not a lot of necessarily mentors in the club. It's kind of a shark
Right.
tank, you know, you just get thrown
Yeah, it
in
is.
and that's the world, you know, like I'm not,
Yes.
and that's fine, you know, that's just what it is. But that was a really cool experience. And then moving to New York City, it was like, they all just wanted your soul. It was really like
Yeah.
aggressive and like, and but
So
the
different.
money was great. And but New York City, you know what I mean? Like I wanted a career in entertainment. I
Yeah.
knew exactly what I was doing, and
Mhm.
I nailed it. I had the
Yeah, you
best.
did.
I killed it. I did so good. And I will say this, and I just want anyone to hear this. I was never the top earner. I think maybe 2 shifts in 10 years was I ever the top earner. Um,
Mhm.
I was not the top earner, but I'm really good at money. I'm smart about my money because I'm good at managing it and I'm good at investing
Yes.
it. And I invested in myself and in my career. And ever since then, I've just been, I've had enough. I've invested it. I invested in real estate. I know that's really hard right
Yeah.
now, but there's so many ways that you can invest your money because like
Yes.
wealth management is what it is to like get rich. And get rich to me means like having the privilege to think about money rather than worry
Totally.
about it.
Absolutely.
So I was never the top earner, but I like where I put my money and what I did with it was really helpful. And I did not buy a single designer bag or
Me
designer
too.
shoes. I didn't buy
Yeah,
any of
I
that
am the
shit. And
same way.
you can, but like it's it's not wealth management. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you can buy that stuff if you want. It's a luxury. You know, my luxuries
Yeah.
were travel. I traveled the
Yeah.
world, but I invested in real estate. I invested in my career, and ever since then I've been good. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like I really am still coasting on the money I invested from stripping. And I'm
That's
like I'm taking
awesome.
more risks and now I do a lot of different things now that some things make money, some things don't make money, and I still just like at the club. Some days you
Mhm.
win and some days you don't because I'm an entrepreneur and I think I will be probably forever.
Mhm.
Um but I just think it's important to talk about money and to talk about like the grandeur of like, you know, like killing it and making, you know, several $1,000s a night. Like that was never me. I had a couple nights like that, but like
Yeah.
I was pretty average in my earnings
Mhm. Me too.
and don't underestimate how wonderful that is. Like
Mhm.
average, consistent showing up, like, you know, and I think that's why I lasted so long because I kind of just paced myself.
I think that's
So,
so important to talk about. Like, I'm
mhm,
also, I share a similar sentiment with you as well. You know, I invested my money in real estate.
mhm,
I was also never a top earner. Like, actually selling
mhm,
dances, it's really hard for me. Like,
mhm. Yeah.
you know, like I
But you work
really,
hard.
but you work hard. You try your best. Every day is
Mhm.
different, you know, like a Tuesday,
Yeah.
Wednesday, you know, Friday, Saturday, like whatever.
Mhm.
But, I think it's really important to have that kind of conversation with yourself because, you know, I see so many girls enter the industry in various parts of the industry and you know you're welcome to spend your money wherever you want it to but like I think it's really important to be smart about it and you know
Mhm.
park it somewhere safe
Yeah.
and that can like especially right now where inflation is so high and things are so
Mhm.
expensive and like have an emergency fund for yourself because yeah like personally for me like I have no interest in like designer bags or anything like that or like luxury cars or things like that.
I love that
I
shit.
don't.
I'm just not buying it.
I am the same way. I like it. I just don't want to buy it myself with my own money. Like,
No.
like I think it's great, but yeah, I feel like people need to think like in the long term personally. Like even though this might be a transitional job for whoever's listening, maybe it's a job for now. It's a time where you can make the potential of a lot of money in a short amount of time or during this period, and you might not make that much money again is what I'm trying to say. Like, and I think it's smart to invest it somewhere. So I'm glad that you're bringing that up too, because especially as someone who's worn so many different hats and has done so many things, and you're able to still like live off of that says a lot. That really, really does say a lot for sure. So
Yeah, because like it's just like I believe in having money everywhere. I believe in having multiple bank accounts. I mean, it's annoying, but like I'm as a Canadian living in America, I have multiple bank accounts. Having a business, having like I was married. Like it's important to have money everywhere, not just in bank accounts, but like I put money everywhere. I hide in all of my pockets. I put like 50s everywhere because you have to remember that money is everywhere.
yeah.
So
Yes,
like
it
put
is.
money everywhere, even if it's $5, it doesn't have to be a 50, but you always want to be finding money, discovering money. Money is everywhere. Just find it, and then you'll start noticing that money is everywhere. And then it feels more like an adventure of like where it's coming from. Like I'm at a point right now where I don't know where I'm going. Like well, what's interesting too, and what I want to talk about here is that consulting has come up, being an educator or a consultant. I'm still sort of workshopping what the language is that I want to use, but the opportunities that have come to me, like I didn't want to start teaching dance in this community, but I was asked to. Somebody asked me to teach dance, and I was like, okay, I'll teach dance. And I wasn't planning on being a consultant in Hustlers, but I was invited to do that. And then I wasn't
Right.
planning on being a consultant to other women. It doesn't have to be women, but generally it is women. But I've been recently getting a lot of phone calls for people who want my advice on things. So these, like, if you believe that money is everywhere, which I do, and the way it comes to me, I asked the question a few months ago, because I've been sort of, spinning with my career since then, because there's so much I can do. I wear so many hats, which is a blessing and a curse, because it's, analysis paralysis, overwhelm. I guess we call it ADHD as well. It's like there's so much that we can do, but what is actually like what's going to work? And I've done so much, but I'm kind of spread thin. So I asked, how can I be of service with the least amount of effort? And I got a phone call to be a consultant, and I've been asked to teach dance. And these are things that are not a lot of effort for me. I show up, the effort has been done in my 37 years of like all of the work that I've done. And I realize it's time for me to center the wisdom. I have a lot of wisdom to share. And that's sort of what I'm doing. I'm embracing my role as a leader and teacher.
Yeah, I mean, this is a good transition point. Like maybe we can talk about that too, because a lot of people might also know you from you being a consultant on the movie Hustlers that came out like kind of when I started the podcast, like
5 years ago.
2019. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, it's been ages.
Uh-huh.
I mean,
Hi, it's Carly David, founder of PS Group, marketing agency for sex workers by sex workers. We're here to give you the tools you need to stand out. From slick websites to next level marketing strategies, we want to turn your fans into loyal customers. Our fees are project-based, no commissions, no percentages. We believe you should keep the rewards of your hard work. So if you're serious about taking your brand to the next level, visit us at sexworkmarketing.com. Say hello. We'd love to talk to you.
yeah, talk to us about that, how that invitation came about. And I mean, obviously it's because you've put in all this hard work and like you have a name. But I would love to hear like what that phone call was, like how that kind of came to fruition, and why it's so important to have consultants like authenticity consultants on specifically sex work aligned films.
Yeah, well, So I got an email. I got an email invited to, and with it was an invitation to audition for Hustlers for a part. And
Okay.
I was like, because I don't have an agent, right? This was a direct email to my email address. And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. I was like, and they're like, yeah, starring Jennifer Lopez. I was like, I'm going to be in that fucking movie. I just knew it. I was like, I'm going to be in this movie. So I go to the audition. I meet the director, Lorene Scafaria, who's amazing. And she had been following me on Instagram because
How's
she was writing this
yeah.
movie, right? She
Yeah.
got hired to write the movie, and like she's amazing. Like we're friends. She's an absolute mentor of mine. I ask her, like she's provided a lot of like wisdom, guidance, and friendship as I'm like trying to get into trying as I pursue my own filmmaking career, because I always wanted to make movies,
Mm-hmm.
right? I always wanted to do it, but I'd never been in one, you know. So I got the part. They offered me a small role in the film. And they also invited me, like, Anne, are you available to be the consultant? And I was like,
Oh
yeah,
my God.
absolutely. And that was like, it was so cool. And I loved being the consultant because being an actor is cool. But
Mm-hmm.
like, being a consultant, but I like doing both, right? Because I have opinions and I have so much wisdom about the experience. And when you're hired as a consultant, they really hear you. They want your opinions and they
Yeah.
hear them, which was so cool. Like, so I was just like behind the camera on set and all these amazing scenes, like, you know, and talking to Jennifer Lopez about like, you know, like what the dynamics like in this kind of work situation and like what
Mm-hmm.
you would say in this sort of situation. And like, she was awesome. She's Jennifer Lopez. You know what I
How's
mean?
yeah?
Like
She's J-Lo.
she's
Hello.
J-Lo. She works extremely hard.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? She
Yeah.
works extremely hard. And, and that was a really cool experience. And I got to witness Lorene write and direct this like multi-million-dollar feature with like 200 actors. I'm like hanging out with Usher and Lizzo and Cardi B in the dressing room.
So
Like, you know, I was just
cool.
like, I can't believe,
Surreal.
like, what a day. That was just a work
Yeah.
day for me. You know what I mean? That was a work day for me. And I was like, this is amazing. And it showed me, it really is true that like, you can't, what is it? You can't be what you can't see. Because I saw
Mm.
Lorene, and Lorene's a babe, right? Lorene's beautiful and amazing and smart and like just, and like I saw this incredible woman directing this huge movie with all these stars, and I was like, that's what I want to do. And then
There you
and then I
go.
made my movie Tuesdays with Brian. Do you know what I
There
mean?
you
I made my
go.
movie. And
Wow.
I've like, and I'm working on new film projects. I mean, I'm not allowed to make movies right now because of money. But like I've made a couple of movies since then. Like I will make another one. I just have to like slow down. But
Mm-hmm.
that was such a cool experience because that was my big break into show business the way I wanted to
Yeah.
do it. You know, I wanted to make movies and I couldn't have imagined a better circumstance for me to enter into film. Like
Mm-hmm.
it was so fun to be on that project. It was a great crew, great cast. Like
Mm-hmm.
and showed me what was possible for women making movies.
Absolutely. I
And yeah,
mean,
and like it
super
was,
crazy.
and I was, and like the kind of job they wanted me to do was intimacy coordination,
Mm-hmm.
but we weren't actually shooting any sex scenes. They
Right.
were sexy scenes, but they weren't sex. So it's like
Sex.
that's what
Yeah.
intimacy coordinate. Because I've since shot a sex scene where we had an
Mm-hmm.
intimacy coordinator, which is
Right.
cool because they're kind of like the porn director on set,
Yeah. Yes,
you
that's
know. And
true.
like it was
Mm-hmm.
great. It was awesome. Like I loved it. I was like, oh, this is so cool. Um, but I guess the important thing is, I mean, sex workers have been in films, are always in movies, but they're just sort of cast as like, you know, like these sort of two-dimensional characters, and we're often
Yeah.
killed and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
it's just a little bit, it's kind of it's cheap, you know.
Yes,
It's
it
like
is.
and we know more now, and now that we
Mm-hmm.
know more, we can do better. So I think like having sex worker consultants is just great to have on set because like everybody loves to, you know, document and talk to sex workers
Sex
about
workers.
anything and everything,
Yes.
right? Like there's a real like obsession, especially in America, because it's so taboo. So I think it's just kind of like with the awareness of like, okay, this is like a very exploited, underrepresented, marginalized community. Maybe we shouldn't tell their stories without their input. You know, I think like
Right.
that's where the culture is moving, and I think that's great. Um, yeah, and the other part of me though is like, because I wanted to be the authenticity consultant. Like, how can we make this as authentic as possible?
Of
And
course, that's
yes, I think
important.
that's a yes. Well, yeah, it is, but it's also, I think the other thing, because I'm also a filmmaker, is it's a movie, and I
Yeah,
think in this culture now, because we spend so much time on screens, and we don't know what's real or fake anymore, we expect movies to be realistic,
right.
and I don't have that expectation of films anymore as a filmmaker. I'm like, it's a movie. It's a literal fantasy.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I think we need to remember that. I think it's also important to hire sex workers though all the time.
Yeah,
Give your money to
absolutely.
sex workers, and like, and if you want to make some sort of like serious drama, like, yeah, do your research and hire sex workers.
Mm-hmm.
Um but like uh I think a lot of like the criticism I got from being in Hustlers was like glamorizing thieves,
Right.
right?
But that was like based
Glamorizing.
on a real story though, and that's
Yo, when I
unfortunately
read
what
the
the
New
real
York
story
Times
was.
article, well, not the New York Magazine article, when I read that article, I was working at the time in New York, and I was like, fuck, I
Oh my
wish I did
god.
that. Like, I wish, and I wouldn't do that though, because that's not my hustle at all.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I like, I just, I just don't, that's just not how I do things. But at the time,
Yeah.
I wished I had, because I was like, God, like, because just drug them and make them fall asleep and take their money. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, that's fucking brilliant. You know, like, I read that article and wished I had done it. But a lot of people were really upset because it painted strippers as a bunch of thieves, and I'm like,
Yeah.
and nobody likes that either, right? And
Right.
like, that's a movie. It's a sensational story, and those are the kind of movies
Yes.
that get made. And like, when I made Tuesdays with Brian, my movie, like, I'm playing a man. Like, it's not
It's
real.
not
It's a
real.
fantasy.
Right.
It's a movie. And um and that's sort of where I'm at. And being like, yes, it's important to have representation. It's important to have sex workers involved. And I think like sex workers are funny and brilliant, and like should just be way more involved in filmmaking in general, because
Mm-hmm.
it's such a natural progression from my work. Like
Mm-hmm.
like I've gone from being, I still entertain on stage, and I'm hilarious, and I have great timing, and I know how to include everyone. I'm great at improv, and this is all from stripping.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So I think it's just a real testament to the versatility of sex workers and what they're capable of. And
Mm-hmm.
um like a lot of people are really hungry for that wisdom and that knowledge, and I think it goes back to like goddess worship. You know what I mean? Like, we go to the
Mm-hmm.
goddess and we pray at her altar, whether it's a strip club or it's a temple. Like, what is the difference? Like, maybe a couple of 100 years is just the difference, right? But
Right.
like, there's so much wisdom to be gleaned from these usually femme, archetypes, who have a
Mm-hmm.
lot to share with the community and are actually like really important people, members of the community. Is like, wise women to go to with your questions, you know,
Yes.
so that you
Yes.
can learn from. Because I'm learning, living in a really small community where there is no strip club for hours and hours and hours in every direction.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but like, women want to have an opportunity to feel sexy,
Yeah. Definitely.
and we should, and I do a lot of sharing of that experience, whether we're taking a dance class or I'm teaching an art class or I'm sitting and just having an hour conversation with someone who's like working through some stuff. Is like, we all need to find a way to be able to express that part of ourselves.
Absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
you were talking to just to backtrack a little bit, talking about like
Mm-hmm.
the many different skills that sex workers gain doing whatever type of job you're doing in the industry, and how
Mm.
transferable that is to other areas, or art
Mm-hmm.
or work or whatever it is. Talking about those transferable skills, it's a lot of people struggle with that transition in terms of like
Yeah.
getting out of the work. And I know you
Mm-hmm.
yourself also shared at the top of the episode too, like, doing this experiment and like, cutting
Mm-hmm.
ties, or like at least temporarily, maybe cutting
Mm-hmm.
ties with sex work and what that looks like. And also like, dropping Jacq the Stripper, that name, that
Mm-hmm.
persona, that brand,
Mm-hmm.
and transitioning to Jacq Frances. I want to ask
Mm-hmm.
you, like, um, how was that transition for you, and what kind of like advice would you give to people who are in that kind of boat too, where you've lived this life in this community in sex work, and how to depart, how to mourn that death as well. Like, I'm curious about that.
Yeah, well, this is what I'm now consulting on. Like, you can call me and we can talk about this.
Sure.
But I will say that it's what is important is to make a list of 5 things you loved about sex work. And so, for example, for me, I loved cash, outfits, performing on stage, freedom of schedule, and being sexy with strangers. Those are my 5 things that I really liked about the job. And like, make a list of 5 things you didn't like about the job. For me, that was like really drunk people.
Yeah.
Like having to stay beyond like what you wanted to. I don't know. There's not that, and somehow doing things I didn't always want to do, like having my boundaries crossed without even really realizing it.
Yeah.
And like having the house take half of what I made. I didn't really like that. And so make that list of 5 things you loved about it, 5 things you didn't like, because those 5 things that you love about your work make those things are still going to be important to you, and you're still going to need to express those parts of yourself. It might not be in a work environment, but it might be, so cash. I still love cash. I still tell everybody at my shows to bring cash. You know what I mean? Like, I tell people every day I love cash. People always give me cash because they know I love money. People know I love money. Outfits. I love, and now I'm in entertainment, right? I'm still in entertainment, but I love playing dress up. Being sexy with strangers, dance class is a big part of that. So I found ways to bring the elements of the club that I enjoyed with me into my new life. So it's important to make that list. And you don't have to answer it right now, but it's important to have an awareness of what is it that you loved about that career. And because those parts of you are just parts of you that will always be a part of you that you need to express, but the expression will change. So I would say take your time and you have to adjust your lifestyle. You have to adjust your spending.
Yeah, you absolutely do.
And that's and getting comfortable with adjusting your lifestyle based on your spending. These are life skills, because life is up and down. And another thing that I would say is that this is my truth, and this may be yours, it might not be, but what I've noticed with a lot of sex workers who have retired is the entrepreneurial spirit.
Yes.
You might not be the kind of person who wants to go out and get a job.
Yeah.
You might be. You might be. And I've tried to go out and get a job. It doesn't. I joke. I say, I don't job, I jack, because I have tried. And it's like, I'm like, you want how many hours from me?
Yeah.
For what money? You want me to wear what? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it just isn't me. But I think there's going to be a time in my life where I do take a job. Life is long, and I welcome these opportunities, right? I'm like, if somebody did offer me an exceptional job where I had to wake up and go to an office every day, like, what would that job be? I don't know, but it remains to be seen. But I trust if it's meant to happen, it'll come. But entrepreneurial spirit doesn't really go away, and it's a real gift. A lot of us too are healers. We have this incredible gift of relating to people and seeing people. That's one of my gifts. I see people now. Instead of lap dances, I paint people's portraits, but I have an intimate 4-minute experience with someone where I really look at them, and then instead of dry humping their thigh, I paint them a picture. But it's sort of a very similar experience of an intimate moment where people feel witnessed. And you just never know how it's going to manifest.
No, totally.
Yeah, and you got to, and just like, stop spending all your money. Like,
you really got to adjust that.
Like, I don't dye my hair anymore. I still get my nails done, but like, I stopped drinking. If you want to save your bank account, stop drinking.
Yeah, definitely.
And like, deal with your eating disorder. That also like helped me with my finances. Eating disorders are really bad for your bank account. But God, what was the question? Advice.
Just advice in terms of like transitioning.
Well, you're on a journey. You're on a journey because it's really unique. it's a really unique thing to like retire young, right? A
Yeah.
lot of people don't necessarily have that, but some of the most interesting people I know have had like so many different careers. Like my mom, for example. My mom was a photographer, and then she did importing, and then she was a mom. My mom loved being a mom. She didn't have to work. She loved being a mom. And then she like was a ski instructor, and then she went in, at 55, my mom went back to teachers college and became a teacher. And she was a
Wow.
teacher for 10 years because she wanted a job and the stability later in life. She was like, I would like some
Yeah.
structure and a pension. And so
Yeah.
my mom is so cool because she's tried so many different careers and she's learned something from all of them, and they just sort of happen, and like that's what makes life interesting. So I've grown up around a role model who's had many different careers, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And to just like let the career die and take lessons with you, and to let it become something else, and to and let your sparkle like sort of be the guidance, like this, what made you great at being a stripper or being a sex worker is you,
Yeah. Yes.
and your essence is like, it's transferable in so many other ways.
Totally.
Yeah.
You know what? It's so crazy. We've gone this far in the conversation and we haven't even really talked about like your art and your
Ah,
authorship. And I'm just like, what
yeah,
the hell am I missing here? Can we please talk about that and take a moment to talk about
yeah,
that as
sure.
well?
My art.
Yeah, let's go from there, wherever you want to start.
How do I say my art? I paint every day. I mean, my art is so many things, right? Like I'm a visual artist. I
Yep.
paint. I'm a filmmaker. I tell
Mm-hmm.
stories. I'm an onstage entertainer. I put
Yes.
on shows. I'm a comedian. And like, what else? I mean, behind me is a collage I did. Like, and then
Beautiful.
all my art's everywhere. I
Yeah.
just make art every day. I have no choice in the matter. It just happens. It comes out of me. And that, but like but the way I guess this is quite like work related. So I do make art. Like I do commission portraits.
Mm.
Lately I've been painting a lot of ski portraits, or I'll go to parties. I actually love being a portrait artist at parties. And that's like how
Yeah.
the stripper in me gets to be nurtured, because I show up at a party and I look cute and I have a little corner and people come over and they sit for a portrait. And
Love
that's
it.
sort of like, that's the latest endeavor of my like art in terms of like paint, like visual art. That's what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what was the other thing?
Yeah, I mean, like just
Comedy,
talking about like
filmmaking,
authorship, like how you started your
authorship.
books
Oh my God, my
and
book is
stuff.
turning 10. Isn't
That's
that so?
crazy.
The Beaver Show, so the Beaver
Yeah,
Show
that
came
book.
out 10 years ago in April. And this is
Wild.
my memoir. Oh my God, you can listen to it on Audible. I was talking about this book last night with my girlfriends at dinner. I was like, you guys, I wrote this book and I cringe so hard when I read like any page. I was like, I would never say this now. Like, it's like, oh my God, like so problematic, right? Like I said things that are so like, I was so fat phobic in one sentence. I remember
Oh
even 2 years
no.
after. Yeah, this is because this is where I was at. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It doesn't make it
Mm-hmm.
right, but that is where I was at. And
Gotcha.
and I wrote it and I published it, and that's out there forever. And like, and I'm not ashamed of it. I'm just like, oh, that was a lesson. And I already publicly apologized. I was like, I was fat phobic in this. I'm sorry. You know what I mean? Like I've said that.
Yeah.
And um and like there's so many, like you could comb through it, you could cancel me for fucking two times a page on that book. Do you know what I mean? Like there's
Now I
so
need to
much
read
in
it.
that. Yeah, there's so much in there where I'm like, oh God. Like, and like also I wouldn't write that book that way anymore, but that's 10 years ago. And I think
Yeah.
if any of us read anything we wrote 10 years ago, we would cringe. And I think it's just like, it's important to be able to, and also, but I'm also so proud of that book because I was so rude. Like the book is so fucking rude. And I kind of love that about me. I'm like, yeah, that's exactly who you were at 25, Like
Absolutely.
I wrote it at 25, 26. I published it at 27. No, I published it at 28, which is so young, And
Mm-hmm.
like I'm so proud of that book, and I've since published 6 books. Some
Yeah,
of
you
them are
have.
like that, not any, that was the first memoir, but like part of me is like, oh my God, 10 years later, like it needs a sequel. Like, cause
Yeah.
I finally quit sex work, right?
Yeah.
Because the way that book ends is kind of like, well, what happens when stripping's over? And it was just this big question mark. Cause I was like, I don't know. I'm like, I'm still having fun. Like, there's no reason for this to end. And now I have the wisdom of like, what is it like for stripping to end?
Yeah.
But
You should write a second, like a sequel to that for sure. I'm curious to see like what
yeah,
your
if I
take
get
would
a
be on
deal,
that.
if I get a deal, if I get an advance or something, but I'm not writing, I'm not sitting down for like 2 years of my life without an advance.
Yeah,
I mean,
sure.
unless some other, like, unless I meet, I don't know. I'm trying not to, you know what else is crazy in this whole
What?
dating thing? And like, everyone's like, I'm like, ugh, what if I just found like a really rich boyfriend or something? You know what I mean? Like, I don't really know if I want that. But what if a miracle happened and I did, and like all the money I needed to fund all of my projects just magically arrived? Then I'd have to actually do the work of like writing the thing. But you know, there's a sequel. The title is called Summer's End because Summer was my stripper name, my longest standing stripper name.
Oh.
So Summer's End, I don't know. I just we'll see. But yeah, I've published a bunch of books. Like Divorce Illustrated is my last book. That was amazing. I love that book. And I have a couple of new books in me, but like recently I published a calendar. Like I've been photographing a lot of skiers and athletes, and like athletes are such show offs and they're so competitive. They all want to be seen naked. Like it's great because I'm working on a nude calendar. Everyone's like, I'll be in it. I'll be in it. Like they really want to, like, people want to show off and flex. So that's one of the really cool things about being out about my work is that other people also want permission to be sexy, to be naked, to be confident, to show off. Like so many people want nude portraits. You know what I mean? They want a nude portrait. So it's like, it's really nice to be in a community where they all know, because I am so open and free about my body and my story and everything. It just encourages other people to just like join.
Yeah. It's contagious in a good
It
way.
is contagious. It's so contagious. And I think when, it's not if stripping ends, it's when. Do you know what I mean? Like it does end. And it's a gift for it to end because it means like you got to do it, you got to enjoy it, and like it doesn't always. This ending is sad. The ending was so sad for me, and I was denying it for so long. But and it's still it
Can you
took me
share
like 2 years. Well, yeah, because like it really
Mm.
ended when Hustlers came out because I got a lot of hate for being in Hustlers, and I felt so betrayed. Like I was like, I had never been like dragged so hard before. And I also now I also consult on, if you're getting hate on the internet, we can talk about that because I have a lot of experience with haters, and haters bring important lessons wrapped in shit.
Yeah.
So
And
there's
talk to
always
us about
lessons.
that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I learned by doing. So all of the like my rude book, you know what I mean, or like problematic things that I say a lot of those things in public. So I get reprimanded and corrected very publicly, and it's not always nice.
Yeah.
And a lot of, and it's also just jealous haters. Like a lot of people would want to be, a lot of people wanted to do what I was doing, right? But I had the confidence to just do it. Like I fucking started drawing the pictures. I wrote the book. I started telling the jokes. I made the movie. I was in the movie. Like I did all the things, and a lot of people wish they had those opportunities. I'm like, well, start drawing, put yourself out there. Like I have no problem putting myself out there. But when you put yourself out there, you can get a lot of hate.
Yeah, absolutely.
Learning how to navigate criticism has been a really important journey for me. I actually learned a lot about that in clown school. I went to clown school in France like 2 years ago. That changed my life.
Cool.
But learning how to deal with criticism. Yeah, like when Hustlers came out, like I got so much hate for being part of a movie that glamorized thieving strippers. You know what I mean? And I think I was, I was kind of like an easy scapegoat. Like I got blamed for all the problems of Hustlers. And I was like, you guys, I was a consultant. And I had 2 lines. Like I felt the anger at me because I felt a lot of anger, but it wasn't like, there's nothing I could have done about it. Do you know what I mean? There's nothing I could have done about it. So I just had to experience that. I had to go through that. And it was really hard because I felt so betrayed. Like I felt like I had all the support of every sex worker everywhere. And I was trying so hard. I was trying so hard to like sing our praises and like, woo, woo, woo. I was trying really hard, but you can't make everyone happy. And
that's the thing.
But I really dealt with like a psychic attack, like the experience of internet hate. It really takes a toll on the body. Like a lot of my hair fell out.
Oh
You
my
know,
gosh. I'm so sorry to hear that.
it's okay. It's okay. This is, a lot of people go through this, and I had to learn how to
Mhm.
have boundaries around making other people happy. And because it was a
Mhm.
dream come true for me, right? And it was this weird moment where I was like no longer accepted by the stripper community in Hollywood. Like when I was at the premiere at TIFF, like I wasn't on the guest list, and I showed up in my stripper shoes and my outfit, and I was ready to walk the red carpet. And this woman was like, she's not on the list. She's not on the list. I was there with my mom, and everybody else was walking past the entrance to go in. And
Oh
this,
my
and
gosh.
and I was like texting the producer, and I was texting this person, and I was like, am I even welcome here? And she was like, she's not on the list. She's not on the list. And this security guard, this woman, and it's funny because like the security guard was this like super dykey woman, and I was like, yo, I'm on your team. I was like, I'm one of you. Like I wanted so
Yeah.
badly to relate to her, but she was on a real power trip, this woman, the
Oh my
security guard. And
gosh.
she was like, she's not on the list. And so, they never let me in the building. I had
Oh
to
my
walk. A producer
gosh.
came and she gave me my press pass, but she was like, that press pass isn't hers. She's not on the list. And I was like,
Oh
I'm
my
kicked out of
God.
stripping. Like everyone hates me at the club now. And
Jesus.
the cinema, like Hollywood, it won't accept me. I'm not on the list. So I had to walk around the building
That's a
outside in
big
my stripper shoes.
building.
It's a huge building at TIFF,
Yeah.
right? I had to walk around the building, and I got my red carpet moment, but they wouldn't let me in the building. And it was like I was just straddling these two
Ah,
worlds. Like strippers hated me now, and the club was kind of hot, started to get a little bit hostile for me, just a little bit. Like
oh
it
my
wasn't dramatic, but I
gosh.
just felt the shift. I was like, okay, like
Yeah.
I just felt, because the girls were kind of jealous, you know what I mean? And like, hey, this happened. I get jealous when I see a
Yeah.
woman achieving something that I want before me.
Yeah.
I'm jealous. So
That's
I
a
felt
natural
that.
thing.
Yeah, and I felt that in the club. So I was like, okay, the club's kind of dying for me. And like the club didn't want me either because I was like mouthy, you know what I mean? I was like talking about labor rights. It was just, and then, but
Mm.
Hollywood, and like I still don't have an agent. I'm still not getting that many invitations to be in movies. I'm making my own movies, but like and that's been 5 years. That's been five
Yeah.
years of straddling these two worlds. So the transition takes time, but it's
Mm-hmm.
been this really incredible journey of like learning so much about myself. And like you have to also know that the struggle is where the creativity is. Whenever you're
Mm-hmm.
struggling and you
Yeah.
don't, or if you don't have a lot of money, like I don't have a lot of money moving through me right now. I'm still fine. Like, but I keep my bills really low. I pay for groceries. I go skiing, right? That's a big expense of my life. But I make all my own food. I don't really go out. I work,
Yeah.
and I pay my rent. Like I don't own property anymore. I'm
Mm-hmm.
just living a much simpler life. But it's been a 5 year transition, and I don't have, like, the new lifeboat isn't here yet. Like I'm trying things and I know what it is, but like stripping was consistent cash for me for 10
Yeah.
years. It was how I made money and how I was able to pursue all of my other activities, all of my other
Mm-hmm.
endeavors, making films, being a comedian, all that stuff. Those were like interests I had, but stripping was the money. And
Yeah.
now I still don't know what the new money thing is. I managed my money well from the last one, but like,
Mm-hmm.
is it consulting? I enjoy doing that.
Yeah.
Is it producing entertainment? I enjoy doing that. But like, is that going to be like the cash cow? We don't know, but it's been a 5 year transition, and it just takes time. And like straddling the two worlds, I think a lot of us relate to that. It's like,
Totally.
are we our stripper name? Are we our civilian name? Like what's like, and where are we going next? And I think, and I'm just kind of comfortable in that liminal space of not knowing, because it's a
Yeah.
great time to make art. But if you don't
For
know, it
sure.
can be quite anxiety ridden.
Inducing.
So
Yeah, for sure.
yeah, that's why I paint every day. That's why watercolor. Like when I do my consulting sessions with people, making art or watercoloring is part of it, because that has been my process that sort of helped me carry through all those uncertain times, because there's a lot of uncertainty, especially now.
Mm-hmm.
But there's always uncertainty. So like giving yourself grace and having, like, most people, I think sex workers are inherently very creative people. So
Yes.
having a creative outlet, even if it's knitting, if it's writing, if it's painting, whatever it is, but having that available to you all the time, I would really recommend that, because
Mm-hmm.
uncertain times can put the body under a lot of stress, and that makes us sick. I struggle with,
Yes.
like, I'm a really sensitive person, and I get sick. Like I have so many issues with like my ass, my colon. Like I have a really sensitive
um,
digestive system, and I have to really be careful what I eat and if I'm in a stressful situation. Otherwise I get very, very, very sick. And like, it's important to just like take care of the vessel. I also put it through a lot.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So like, you gotta just take care of your vessel.
No, totally. I mean, well, that being said,
Mhm.
like, because you have so many things and big question marks currently, like, what
Yeah.
are the next steps for you? Like, what are your current projects that you're working on that you can share? Where can we find you? All that fun stuff.
Yeah, so I'm my big project, I'm working on a show. It's called Sun Valley Night Live, and that's in Sun Valley, Idaho. So it's a variety show. Like, and that's on Valentine's Day. It's going to be a big show for everyone, because Valentine's Day, everyone kind of hates it, right? If you're single, you kind of
Mm-hmm.
hate Valentine's Day. If you're in a relationship, there's all these expectations, and everyone like
Yes.
hates those expectations. So I'm creating a big show with an after party, and it's for singles, it's for couples, it's for everyone. And the dress code is wear red if you're single and pink if you're taken. So you
Love
can
it.
come, because I just want people to be able to get together and put on a costume and play dress up and play make believe. So that's what I'm doing. And
Fun.
then privately, I'm starting to offer consulting services, and I do offer a discounted rate for sex workers. But I've noticed that I've received a lot of people who are interested in learning from me on a one-on-one
Yeah.
basis, and that's been a really positive experience so far. So that's also what I'm available for. Yeah,
Amazing.
you can find me I am on Blue Sky, Jacq-Frances. I don't really use it, but you can follow me there. And then I'm on
Mm-hmm.
Instagram, Jacq_Frances. And if you want to and you can go to my website, jackfrances.com. And if you want to email me and book a consulting session, we can talk about that. That's at email is artcampproductions@gmail.com. And if you ever visit Sun Valley, Idaho, I do lots of shows here. And you can book me. I don't have any tours planned, but I'm available. You can book me to paint. You can book me to entertain. I love a gig. I love a
Yes.
party. Please invite me to it. I will add to the atmosphere.
Amazing. I mean, this has
Mhm.
been an incredible hour with you, Jacq. I just again, I'm like in awe. Like again, like this, because again, you were part of like my stripping career and like the whole thing with the story of
Mhm.
the book, and just like so many people that have like your tip her hat. Like that was like so many people
Yeah.
in my strip club like have
Yes.
that, and just like your merch. Like it's just really cool to chat with you today and just like hear your story, and just your long standing career is just amazing to hear about and inspiring. And I'm hoping that like a lot of listeners will also continue to be inspired by your story.
Yeah. Thank
So
you.
yeah, I mean, this was incredible. Again, all those links where you can find and follow Jacq is in the show notes below. If anyone wants to get in touch with myself, you can. I'm most active on X, although that's kind of dwindling at the moment too. I don't feel comfortable
Mhm.
there either. But it's Stripped by Sia
Mhm.
podcast. You can find me there as well as on Blue Sky. I'm trying to get that into my routine of posting there. I am still on Instagram, so it's Stripped by Sia podcast on that platform. Again, if you want to contribute to the show financially, you can do that by joining my Patreon, patreon.com/stripped by Sia. And you can listen and find the podcast on all major podcast platforms, YouTube. And if you do enjoy like listening to each episode that is free every single week, you can show your appreciation by giving a nice 5-star review on Spotify or a review on Apple or both, whatever you feel comfortable with. But yeah, if you want to pitch yourself to be on the show, you can. It's strippedbysia.com. And I'm really enjoying all the pitches that are coming in. So keep them coming. There's lots more room for, the tail end now of season 7. And then we'll go into season 8 later on in the year. So thank you all for listening. And thank you so much, Jacq, for coming onto the show this
My
week.
pleasure.
This is incredible to have you on and just to connect with you today. Thank you again.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
You're listening to Stripped by Sia, hosted, produced, and edited by Steph Sia. Music by Ted D. Graphic design by Maria Bellandarama, and photography by Ian Dabrin.